You may want to listen to the music coming from the Music Center. It is the home of the LA Master Chorale. And when you think of choral music, you think of stained glass windows and nativity scenes. But in fact, choirs are thriving in schools and concert halls and communities around the world, and new music is being written all the time. One of the most prominent and talented of choral music composers is here in Los Angeles. He is Morten Lauridsen, chair of the composition department at USC and composer in residence for the Los Angeles Master Chorale. We spoke with Morten Lauridsen, who many say is at the peak of his composing career.
I found that the composition had so many facets to it. In order to be I think, a good composer, you have to have so many different crafts at hand that the creative process is one that intrigued me and I found very gratifying. My second love is poetry. I read it constantly. I read it every day. It nourishes my life. Combining that with what I consider to be the most beautiful instrument, which is the human voice, and groups of human voices in choruses. When it comes to vocal music, it's always the text. I'm constantly reading. Then I will look for something within that text that sparks a musical sound of some sort. And that musical sound might take a variety of shapes. The music is constantly a battle for me. There are very few Mozarts around who can sit there and write music, as he did so wonderfully the first time out. But for most of us, it's a constant process of writing and revision and honing. It's not an easy thing to do. It will evolve to some degree in the rehearsal process, and working with Paul Salamunovich has been very, very helpful because he will have wonderful ideas about phrasing and tempi and all this, and we have found that working together has been a perfect situation. We're after the same thing.
The delicacy.
The delicacy of the chanson.
The delicacy of the rose.
Rilke is writing poems about roses.
Just before
When he would come to my house once a week when we're working on his music, and he will sit at the piano and play just so fervently through his music with great patience, and he can do it so often.
These kind of soft, delicate sounds of Director, or at the very start where
and he sings along with his music, and I would sit alongside him with my little metronome and find his tempo and see where he wants his holdbacks, little retards, the rubato, etc. And you really get involved and you can capture what he's trying to do.
the very first piece switches to the relative major in D flat in the center of it. And so I switched it on the very last one to start in D flat major, and this particular idea comes very much from the first. When you finally get to the point where you're satisfied and you have turned it over to your performers and your conductors, and you finally are getting into the rehearsal process, that's the gravy. That's the wonderful time. When I write for the Master Chorale, Paul Salamunovich and that chorale are in every note I compose. I might be writing very different kinds of music for a different group that had other strengths. But I have designed my music for this particular group, this conductor, as to what they do so well.
We are lucky to have a giant of a composer, and it has helped us to achieve an inspirational sound. It's the music that makes it happen. If you really believe in it, if it's right. So we're lucky.
I'm the lucky one.
Now, he's making me famous, you know. Conductors will never be remembered, only composers. So my name is on this album and dedication, so I'm very lucky he's going to keep me famous.
And it's a very, very difficult piece. It was a tough piece to write. Setting French was the most difficult language I have dealt with to set. And it's a difficult language to sing. It was extremely gratifying to hear a performance like that. It was just spellbinding for me.
When you please the composer, that's quite thrilling. Can you imagine someone saying today that this person was there to witness the music of Beethoven or Bach and perform it exactly the way the composer wanted it?
As a composer, I'm trying to enrich my audience the same way that I have been enriched by so many composers that have gone before me that have done their utmost under very trying circumstances, for many of them, health or poverty or whatever, to enrich our lives and leave us something elegant. When we are in a jam, personally, where do we turn? We turn to those things that bring us inner peace and that excite our intellect and touch our heart. And this is why we keep going back and back and back to great literature and great poetry and great music. And one only hopes to be able to add to that body of work. So this is what I try to do.
A lovely showcase for that most ancient of musical instruments, the human voice. The Los Angeles Master Chorale recently released a CD featuring the music of Morten Lauridsen. It is entitled Lux Aeterna.